Hello and welcome my wonderful artsy friends to a new video here on my channel Creative Creations. My name is Andrea Gomoll, and today I would like to share with you a mixed media canvas inspired by this wooden wall decoration block that I found in my stash, and that doesn't really speak to me anymore, so I decided to give it a go and to alter it, and to make it my own. And since lately I felt a lot more like creating again, I thought, why not share this on video? So I grabbed this wooden block, and I also have this print out of a cookie jar, Christmas cookie jar, as well as some 3D printed Christmas cookies. And I kind of wanted to create like a collage, a mixed media collage on this wooden block. So I'm starting here by applying some acrylic paint, just covering that quote that is on this block, because actually that quote doesn't really make sense to me right now. I mean, I bought it at some point because I liked it, but right now, thinking about it, this quote kind of doesn't make sense, because I think happiness is not the point where all our dreams came true, where we reached all our goals, but we need and we should find happiness right at that point where we are, no matter where we are right now in our lives. Because let's face it, I mean, how sad would that be if we only find happiness once all our dreams come true, right? So for me it makes so much sense to cover up that quote and to create something new, something for me right now just more meaningful, or at least more fun on this piece of wood. So I'm covering the background with some acrylic paint, and I tried to, my idea was to kind of leave the edges a little open, to have the wood background kind of peek through around the edges. And then I'm using some bubble wrap here to add a bit of texture, because I didn't really like the texture of the brush, of the bristles, of the brush strokes. So I'm just dabbing a little bit on here to kind of give that random effect of the bubble wrap, like stamping with bubble wrap on here. And drying it. And then I grabbed some vintage sheet music that I found at the flea market years ago, actually. It was a huge book filled with many pages of vintage sheet music, which is just amazing. It was a real treasure to find. So just using one sheet out of this booklet, and then I'm just tearing the edges here. I kind of wanted that teared edge look, however a little bit I wanted to have a little bit of control of the tearing, so I use this ruler here, this special ruler, so that I have that teared edge look. However, I'm having a little bit more influence of where the tear ends up. And then I'm just grabbing some distress inks here to ink the edges, just a blue, shade of blue and a shade of brown, kind of matching the overall feel and matching the illustration that I'm using here. Then just laying it out, seeing where I want things to go, checking, and grabbing some corrugated cardboard here, also tearing the edges, and then inking the edges and distressing it a little bit more, because I really want that that ragged, that old, that grungy look for the canvas, or for the wall art piece. So crumbling it and also tearing the edges here, so to really give it that distressed, that old, that used and loved, well loved look. Yeah, inking the edges some more until I'm actually happy with the result. And then I'm using this this distress tool, this dabber tool, to ink the edges of my illustration, just because here I want a little bit more of a softer blend here on the edges with inking the edges. And then I'm also slightly tearing the edges and just crumbling it a little bit together, kind of breaking up the texture of the paper, the fibers of the paper, to again give it a little bit of that that old, that ragged, that shabby vintage look here. Yeah, so that it kind of all looks like it belongs together and kind of matches in the overall style and feel. Yeah, then I'm also grabbing a bit of this the salmon red here, because I kind of wanted to bring in a bit of that red that's also in the illustration, in the lid of the cookie jar, and in that little ornament down there. Yeah, distressing that piece of cardboard a little bit more, using a staple to staple down that edge here, inking it some more. So just going back and forth, having a little bit of fun here with with some ink and some color. Again, as always, no rhyme or reason, just doing what feels right at that moment. Then I'm grabbing a stencil and some acrylic mousse, some white acrylic mousse here, to add a bit of a three-dimensional element to the background, a little bit of a texture to the background, to give it yeah, a little bit of a tactile touch, because, you know, I love to touch things, and I love layers, and I love if there's something to feel on it, you know, if you let your fingers glide across the surface and there's some interesting texture on there. I just love that. So texture paste always is a must for me. Yeah, using that white here, and then I wanted to bring in a little bit of gold. So I didn't have any gold texture paste here. Well, I had, but it was dried up. It all dried up on me over the last years when I hadn't used it. So I just made use of what I have. So I grabbed some acrylic paint, which is a little bit too liquid, but it worked. And I'm all for just making use of what you have and making what you have work in one way or another. Yeah, and I'm actually pretty happy with the result. Yeah, drying this here, drying the background, and then I wanted to yeah, kind of mute down this this paper and also the cardstock a little bit more, kind of bring in that eggshell color that I already used in the background. So I'm just dry brushing a little bit of that eggshell colored, that beige colored acrylic paint onto the paper scraps here. Not really I don't really want like an even color coverage here, just really dry brushing it, just having a little bit of dry paint on my brush and just allowing the bristles to glide across the surface to give off a little bit of that paint. Then using some gel medium here to glue down the elements, starting with this this piece of vintage music paper or sheet music here, and just making sure that everything looks the way I want it, just kind of checking. And when I'm gluing this down, as you can see, I'm kind of pushing it a little to the centers to make sure that it's only kind of sticking in the center, and the edges they're kind of loose, because I want them to be loose and slightly bent upwards, so that it kind of keeps this ragged edge look. And the same with this piece of cardstock here, or cardboard, applying some gel medium, then just yeah, gluing it down onto my canvas here. I always say canvas, down onto my wooden block, and the next piece as well. Again, just applying the gel medium in the center, so that the edges they're kind of, yeah, loose and slightly bent upwards, to give it that 3D look and the same with this one, also just gluing it down in the center and allowing the edges to kind of stay loose and be slightly bent upwards, so that the overall piece kind of keeps this 3D feel. Now let's move on to our cookies. Those are 3D printed Christmas cookies that I printed with our 3D printer. Quite makes sense, right? Yeah, I kind of also wanted to give it a bit of that distressed, shabby look. So I'm just using some black ink here to slightly ink the edges, so that it kind of doesn't look that new. I mean, it's kind of hard to really distress those 3D printed elements in some way, but I think inked edges kind of work with everything, right? Even with some 3D printed elements. Then I'm just checking and checking, making sure where I want things to go. I knew that I kind of wanted to layer some of the cookies on top of each other so that it looks like a cluster of cookies which kind of all fell out of this cookie jar. And once I kind of more or less knew where I want things to go, I'm just gluing them down with some gel medium as well. And I kind of wanted to have a little bit of a weight, of a contrast in weight here. So I kind of placed a cluster of more cookies here on the left side, and then just to slightly balance it off, I'm placing one cookie on the right side. But for me, it kind of adds more interest to have a cluster here on the left side and just one single one to balance it off on the right, compared to just spreading the cookies out all over the place. You know, for me, this kind of imbalance for me kind of adds a visual interest here. So I'm making sure everything is nice and secure in place. This will take a while to dry, but it doesn't matter. And then I'm just kind of putting a little piece of cardstock underneath here to create to build like a base for that last cookie to stick on, because there was that open space, that gap, and to make sure that it's adhered nicely, I just squeezed a little piece of cardstock underneath there. Then just checking my ephemera here, some Christmas stickers, some vintage labels, and just finding some that kind of match my theme here, some cookie stickers or bakery stickers, and I've kind of found a few which are a really nice match here. So just checking my stash and looking for some matching items, matching ephemera, matching labels and stickers. And those are actually stickers that I just printed out and plotted with my silhouette to kind of use for my December journal. Also inking the edges, of course, and then just gluing them down using 3D foam pads, because I want to bring in another layer to raise them from the background. And I even add 2 or 3 of those foam pads on top of each other to really give them a lot of dimension and to really lift them off of the background, and to also bring them to the same level as the cookies, because if I would just glue them down onto the background, they would kind of not be level with that top layer of the cookies. I hope that makes sense. I just wanted to create lots of depth and many layers, so that's why I'm adding 2 or 3 of those foam pads on top of each other, just in case you were wondering. So just gluing all of this down, and I really like where this is going. And actually I enjoyed this process so much. I haven't been creating for quite a while now, just because life was very busy, and some health issues, and sometimes there are just phases in your life that you go through where there are other priorities, right? And sometimes life gets in the way, and sometimes you just it just doesn't feel right. But lately I kind of felt this urge again to to sit down and to get my hands dirty again with paint and with ink, and to start painting again, watercolor painting, and also to dab a bit more into mixed media and art journaling again. And I really feel that I missed it a lot. I didn't know I missed it, but now that I'm starting to get back into it, I can feel that it was actually a part that I have been missing a lot. But I was so busy that I didn't even realize that I was missing it. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to dive a bit deeper into this again. Yeah, so just gluing down all of those little labels here, inking the edges, of course. So it's kind of a repetitive task. And once I have everything in place, once I'm happy with yeah, with the way everything looks, of course I need some more paint splatters. If you know me, for many years, nothing is finished without paint splatters for me. Yeah, so, but right now I just decided that I wanted to ink the edges of that wooden block as well, because it kind of looked a little too clean, too clean for me at that point. So inking the edges with some black ink here as well, also that those outer corners, to kind of give it a bit more dimension here. And you can see those edges when it's hanging on the wall, right? And yeah, now we have reached that point that I already mentioned earlier with the paint splatters. Just using some white gesso for some white sparkles, for some white paint splatters, and then of course some contrasting black paint splatters using black acrylic paint. For me, the white splatters, they always kind of add that magical touch, that sparkle to a project. And the black splatters, they kind of always add, they kind of up the overall contrast of a piece, because usually, as you can see if you look at it, there's no real black in this whole canvas. And by adding this black, those black splatters, you kind of raise the overall contrast. And then to finish things off, some gold splatters, of course, because I mean it's Christmas, right? And we all need some gold sparkle for Christmas. And then I had this crazy idea of using some sprinkles, some real cookie sprinkles, to kind of add that cute touch here. And yeah, just because it was like it felt like a good idea, and I actually really love the result. I think it just added that special something, that cherry on top, or the sprinkles on top in this case. Yeah, and I just glued them down with some gel medium as well, just in some random spots to kind of connect the different layers here with those fun, colorful cookie sprinkles, and just shaking them off, shaking the ones that are still loose off here. It kind of made a little bit of a mess, but hey, we're used to that, right? And yeah, then calling it done. And I really enjoyed this so much, and I love the result. I love the way it looks, and it is definitely a lot more dear to my heart now than it was before. Because like I mentioned, I bought it years ago, and it was just standing in the corner, and I actually wanted to throw it away, but then decided, hey, this is a really cool, sturdy background to use for some art. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, if you liked it. Leave a little comment, that will fill my heart with joy, and just wishing you all the best and sending you lots of love.